Yes.
Hi, everyone.
I'm not
Where's your shirt, Mike?
Hi, Sarah.
Very, very cool shirts you're wearing. So I'm going to do that plug right now. If anybody wants a shirt, we're going to do another run. These are individualized because we put paint and drag them through. So anyone who wants a shirt, go to the Momo Sai site and get signed up before the weekend's over, and we will we'll get those to you next week. We have a lot of people very excited about this panel.
Wow.
So I'm going to give a quick introduction. We are going to be talking about, or the title of this panel is We Contain Multitudes, Navigating Psychedelics, Spirituality, and Inner Work Post-Religious Orthodoxy. That is a big title to bite off.
Yeah, that's a $20 title right there.
That's right. So, and this is introducing our panelists. This is the Mormons on Mushrooms crew. Most of you know that. Mormons on Mushrooms is a weekly podcast with the theme of exploring higher consciousness while healing from toxic religious shame. The episodes cover a variety of topics, including psychedelics, therapy, breathwork, meditation, mindfulness, dream work, and sexuality. And I have a couple of ideas for you guys, so we need to talk because I have a couple of podcasts I want to hear.
Ooh.
Yes.
The podcast was started in 2020 by hosts Mike and Doug, ex-Mormon college friends who found significant healing and self-discovery through the use of psychedelics and mindfulness practices. They were quickly joined by Shalise, the first enthusiastic guest of the podcast, who became passionate about contributing to the community. And I'll also say she did a lot of writing for the Utah Bee. So big love from me to her.
Thank you.
So come along for the ride as they traverse the mystical world, looking for ways to explore expanded consciousness, shed limited perspectives, and uncover inner truths. All are welcome to join Mormons on Mushrooms. So super excited.
That's a good.
As we've been doing, we're going to take
good.
you until 1:40 Utah time, and then we'll take 10 minutes of questions, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Guys, I just want to point out, this is the first time we've ever recorded something, the three of us together.
Yeah, like in person.
Yeah, that's
In over
true.
almost 2 years.
This is the first time I think we've been on screen, on video. Is that right?
was the first time, yeah.
Right.
How you feeling about that?
A little nervous about it. If you recognize me, don't say anything, okay?
And if you don't recognize him, don't try to look him up. You don't.
Yeah, there's nothing to find. So should we talk about the title of our thing first?
Yeah, I was pulling it
Yeah,
up so I could read it.
Okay, yeah, read the title.
Well, I'm responsible for this title, you guys. I'm sorry, but I wanted to capture everything, and I'm not very concise sometimes. But we contain multitudes, navigating psychedelic spirituality and inner work post-religious orthodoxy. Why I wanted all of it, I don't know, but there's a fact of and some of the speakers have talked about it here previously, but an approach we've taken to our podcast that's been really helpful for me is that Shalise, you've been doing psychedelics longer than us.
I mean, barely.
We're all pretty much like
Newbies.
newbies, right?
Yeah, honestly,
Toddlers.
those earlier panelists, when they were talking about I've been in this space for 18 years and 20 years and 40 years, I was like, we've been doing it for 3.5 years. Well, yeah.
And so we try to approach everything with this wide-eyed curiosity of, we were taught that only one thing, we were taught the answer in the back of the book our whole lives. This is the answer in the back of the book. Everything has to fit that answer. And now it's no, there is no back of the book.
Yeah.
And that just opens up a multitude of possibilities. But I think a tendency we have, leaving one dogmatic religion, we can fall right back into dogmatism.
Mm-hmm.
And it can even be in the spiritual community, with just fully getting sucked back into that. And that becomes our new dogma. And there's something about the title, We Contain Multitudes. It's no, there's so many parts of us, so much in here that you don't have to embrace one thing. You can just explore everything and hold things loosely.
Yeah, everything is everything, right? I mean, that's We Contain Multitudes comes from Walt Whitman poem where he talks about, do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I'm vast. I contain multitudes. And that's always stuck with me. That was like one of our very first posts, maybe even before we had
we posted on Instagram
episode. It was, And because for me, that was the experience that I was having was, okay, I'm out of Mormonism, which is high demand, highly dogmatic life modality. And then immediately I sort of go into like being a hardcore atheist, and there's all the things that you have to do that is prescriptive of being an atheist. You know, you have to be real big into Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Penn Jillette, all the big, thinkers. And I had to start thinking a certain way. And I found myself falling back into the same habits, because even though I was taken out of Mormonism, the habits that I had developed stayed with me. And so I felt like I had to go all in on the thing that I was doing. And then same when I started getting into the psychedelic community. We've heard awesome people today talking about different, plant medicines, methods for healing, meditation, breath work, moving exercises, that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I just feel like I'm doing what works for me. Like I do all the things that they were mentioning, but I also don't feel like I'm adhering to some certain doctrine or being what someone else wants me to be. Like is saying, okay, here's how you be this hippy dippy dude in the community. Instead, it's like, I can get involved in that shit. I can have a good time. I can really explore parts of myself that are good for healing. But I can also drink a beer and watch the Utah Jazz lose in the playoffs, like which I love doing. I love to hate my love for the Utah Jazz.
Jazz.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Does that make sense? I love to hate my love. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just this weird thing where I think that we are really pre-programmed early on through primary songs that are kind of repetitive and have that good sort of rhythm to them.
Yeah.
To just be like, okay, this is how things are done, and this is who I am. This is my identity. So this is how I have to do things going forward. Not true. Not true at all. You do anything you want.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's also the point of the podcast, is just exploration, and we are not experts, and we're not supposed to be. No one's supposed to be an expert. You're just supposed to find what works, like you said, and leave the rest. So if having a religious attitude towards psychedelics makes you happy, if going all in makes you happy, then that's awesome. But if dabbling in a little bit of Buddhism, dabbling in spirituality, dabbling in astrology, dabbling in Christianity, that makes you happy, then do that. That's really the whole point that we're just trying to get across, is you don't have to be an all or nothing type of person. Just pick the things that make you feel the happiest, the things that present less harm to those around you, the things that will basically enlighten you and make you have a happy, fulfilled life. That's where the focus should be, not on, well, Mormonism isn't the way to go, so what is the right way to go? There is no right way. It's just whatever works for you.
I love that, because with even the titles having spirituality in there for a long time, that was a trigger word for me.
Yeah, same.
Even after doing psychedelics, I was like, no, I've had a very expansive experience, but I wouldn't have called it a spiritual experience, because I feel like spirit was something outside of me. And we've said this quote a lot on the podcast, but it's like, whoever you think you are, we've come to learn who we are from this very egoic perspective of our limited ego. Whoever you think you are, you're not that person. And so and I think there's something that was really cut off from us in our early developmental years of exploration.
Yeah.
And you think like people who don't grow up Mormon, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect in Western society, but people try on different styles as teenagers and mess up and screw up and dabble in different things. And they go off to college and explore more, and they find themselves, and then they settle down. And a lot of us miss that whole window of exploration. And so there's a tendency to like have a rumspringa after, and that's fine too. I mean, we bring out our inner adolescence at this time. But
I had myself a hell of a rumspringa. I can tell you that. I went for it. Yeah.
I guess that was my point.
Well, I think it's a great point. So for me, it's been this thing of, like, to your point, Mike, about the imagination, the adventure piece. Like, kids get it. We got it as kids. You'd be playing a game with your homies on the playground, and it's like some form of chase game, and it's maybe you're playing cops and robbers or something like that. You know what I mean?
You make up the rules.
But then you make the rules up as you go. It's like, oh, well, no, you're actually have to go into this gel. But then if you're like, oh, I'm not in the gel because I snuck in this super cool plasma sword that can cut through the thing of the, of the jail. And it's like, no one even bats an eye. Kids are like,
Okay.
fucking good point, man. You did a good job. Like, well done, homie. And when we lose that with this concept of like every week in and week out, and then on Tuesday or Thursday nights going to, young people, young
women's and young men.
Yeah,
Young people. I like young people.
Going to mutual or
Mutual.
whatever we call it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just inculcated into our brains of like, there's a way, there's one path, the path is pretty straight and quite narrow. And the only way to get there is on this path. And we take away that childlike wonder, that imagination, that spirit of adventure. And then, a lot of times you go into it with anything else. I've seen that with myself and with some of my other friends who have kind of escaped Mormonism. It's like, okay, now I got to find the new thing. And the first things first is you got to read the rules on the Monopoly board. Like, you got to read the rules of how the game is played. There's like a time in my childhood when Monopoly was the funnest game ever, because it's like, landed on free parking, I get all the dough from the middle, and we got to do the 10% thing. Everybody. But then when you start playing by the rules of Monopoly, the real rules of Monopoly, you don't get all that dough that's in the middle when you land on free parking. That's a real rule.
Spoiler alert.
I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, and if you're like a purist, whatever, but it's kind of messed up if you ask me. Like, because Monopoly is fun when it's a total fucking free for all. By the way, it also teaches. Are we not allowed to say fuck? Should I? Oh, okay. All right. So, life is what I'm trying to say is that life is Monopoly. Stop reading the lid that has all the rules on it and just start railing on your friends and taking over the properties and doing cool shit, get your free parking money. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Explore the great and spacious building that you have been avoiding because you've been holding to the rod so tightly that your fingers are bleeding and you're crying and you're tired. Just let go. That's all it is. Just let go and explore.
Because not only is that building spacious, it's great. It's a great building. Like,
there's a world out there.
So many cool things to do in that building,
Yeah.
I'm loving this analogy because you let go of the rod, and where do you go? You go into the midst of darkness first, right?
Yeah.
And
Dark night of the soul.
Yeah, that's the psychedelic experience for
Definitely.
sure, right? And which is why having community, people supporting you through this process is so important, because I think we're all in this midst of darkness together. And did want to hit on one thing is it's reminding me, when we're talking about, like, from a psychological perspective of your true self that we're searching for. I said, we don't know. I feel like that's part of why we're here, is to discover who we really are inside, and to let that come out. And you find that there's not one image that can contain that. And so, you might say, oh, God for me is a loving, sometimes judgmental asshole in the sky with a beard. Well, but God's also other aspects too. He's a trickster. He's devious. It's also the feminine aspect of God that we've cut off.
Yeah.
And so allowing yourself to hold things loosely also allows for those images to change for you over time. So if maybe you're really drawn to Christ right now, right? That image, and that's resonating. Well, lean into that. What does this image have to teach you? And then maybe that shifts more. Or then I know a lot of ex-Mormons who experience the divine feminine a lot on the trips, because that's something that we've pushed into our Mormon shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So to see her come out in a way is pretty cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
I love the idea of leaning into the energy of a deity instead of the idolatry of a deity.
Yes.
Because then when you think, well, what is it about Christ that makes me attracted to his presence? Is it
other
the
than
love?
those washboard abs on the cross?
Are we talking about corporate Jesus, or are we talking about
other than how
Corporate Jesus?
flag
other than how
bearing
sexy
Jesus?
he is?
Or?
Yeah, I didn't mean to. Sorry. I'm attracted to Jesus.
Yeah. Is it the love, the acceptance that draws you to that type of person? And maybe lean into that. Is maybe you can find those attributes within yourself. Or is it the all-knowing, powerful God that's like, yeah, this power and it's exciting, and that creative energy, lean into that instead of picturing an actual person or a human. Or, I mean, as humans, we try and make everything about us. We're like, well, he must be a human because we're the best, instead of just leaning into those attributes that you find attractive.
I love that. It kind of reminds me of, you know, how I think that dogmatic belief systems create this thing of like control over your emotions, when it's okay to have certain emotions and what emotion is okay. I remember just a couple of weeks ago, we were at a funeral, which a funeral is like a heavy sort of deal, right? Like a funeral is no joke. Like you're supposed to be
Mormon
very
funeral
serious.
too, or no?
It was a Mormon funeral, but it was kind of like, you know, they showed up at the back room and, you know, in the back pew and hung out. So they were that kind of Mormon. But
Okay.
of course they had to have the whole full-blown Mormon funeral where everybody's telling good stories about the deceased. Everybody's having the time of their lives, like really remembering. But then, you know, whoever the homeboy who was like presiding, he has to get up there and then bring it all back to, no, it's all about the atonement and Jesus, and here's how we're doing this, and here's why Jesus is important. And it was kind of a bummer because we're celebrating that person's life. This awesome person who just passed, we're celebrating her life. And instead, it's just like, oh, I need to bring you guys back to keeping in mind why her death makes sense, or why it's okay, and what Jesus did to actually be more important than, you know, the lady that we're celebrating. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that tie on our emotions. The other thing was, during that funeral, me and the people that I was sitting with, just the stupidest thing ever started happening, and we got the giggle fits. You know, those uncontrollable giggle fits where you like, where you literally can't look at another, like you stare at the floor.
Yep.
And hope that your body just shuts down from shaking.
I've been in there in a
You
courtroom
can't
with you
breathe.
doing that, right? Were
Oh
you in
yeah.
the court? Yeah.
I wasn't in the court.
Oh, you were in there.
No, I
Oh,
wasn't
your
there
brother
for that.
was. Your brother.
My brother was there for that. But that's just what. And so it's this. I'm trying to take back control, not only of the divine that is me, my portion of the divine that exists within me, because the only thing I can do is what's good for me. You know, my version. Mike and I are very close. Shalise and I are very close. But I can't do what's good for them, because then I'm taking some kind of control over how they should and shouldn't behave, and how they should and shouldn't act. What's profane, what's sacred, all that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to take back my, not control over my emotions, but my allowing myself to feel the emotions that come up when I feel them, rather than that's an inappropriate emotion to have at this moment, so therefore I must be bad. And then I have to confess, I have to repent because I'm having emotions. Like that's a weird thing, right?
Well, I think we were taught to put so much value on our emotions, where it's like our emotions were our barometer for how we, like if I was feeling shitty, it's like, oh, I need to repent of something. I'm not right with God. Like, no, I'm just feeling shitty. It's just a shitty day. That's fine. Like you can feel shitty.
Days happen.
Yeah. And if I'm feeling great, it doesn't mean that like I don't know. It's just like their emotions, their weather, they pass. And they're especially whether if we're open to feel them. And not, I like how you talk about the dogmatism, because there's, I feel like I became very dogmatic in my atheism after leaving the church, where it was like only the rational, only the logical. But what about the imagination? What about the imaginary realm? You know, there's a term in depth psychology called psychic reality, where it's whether we're experiencing it in a dream or in this waking realm, or during a journey, or in our imagination, our psyches are experiencing it the same. And so putting that value back on the imaginary, and I feel like the imaginary is where we communicate with our subconscious, and it's where we can build a better reality. If we can't imagine a better reality for ourselves and for others, we can't. There's a point to dreaming with that and allowing that.
Y'all ever felt guilty about a dream you had?
Oh yeah, all the time.
It's weird. It's a weird thing, right? You wake up and you feel guilty. It's like, I don't have any control.
Or you wake up and you're mad at your mate because she did something.
They cheated
on you.
I've been mad at my wife.
I've been mad the whole day. It's like, no, I just can't talk to you today.
Yeah, man, that's a trip.
This whole just become like a child, which is interesting because they do teach that in the church, but not in the same way. Because like you were saying, they try and commandeer the imagination, like, well, be imaginative, but within these boundaries. And if you go outside of those boundaries, then you're a sinner. And so it's really scary to kind of just imagine anything you want. Not even thinking about dreams, like just having regular thoughts about something that maybe you shouldn't act on in real life, but at least like it's okay to have thoughts and imagine and play and have that childlike sense of wonder, which in turn makes you more present, which in turn makes you more fulfilled in life, when you don't have anxiety because your emotions are in the future, or you don't have depression because your thoughts are in the past, or whatever it is. It brings you to this middle ground of just experience, surrender, and play.
Ooh, I like those 3 words.
Oh, thanks.
Those are good words.
Same.
There's even a word that I'm loving recently called like the word enchantment.
Mm.
And I'm reading a book called The Enchanted Life. And she talks about this notion of re-enchantment, of where that's the realm we lived in when we were like children. You know, we'd go out into a forest and it wasn't just a forest. There were monsters there. There was treasure there. There were pirates or whatever. Oh, pirates in a forest. Yeah, whatever. Sure.
Oh, yeah, man.
Why not?
They gotta bury that booty somewhere.
And, right? We just got off our ship into the forest. Oh,
Yeah.
Of course. And where the trees were alive and the rocks were alive, the world was alive. And the world is alive. We just deadened to it.
Yeah.
And to re-enchant our lives and live that in a way where anything's possible. And it's just kind of exciting. And it's exciting.
It's way exciting. I love, you've been talking about re-enchanting our lives lately.
Yeah.
And it's been really resonating with me, because I do feel like the pragmatist in me has sort of like lost a little bit of that, the ability to, you know, and it's all connected to the imagination part. And like you were talking about, like living in like becoming like a child. By the way, that thing about becoming like a child is one of the hardest things for me in Mormonism, because it does create that sense. We've talked about this before, but it creates that sense of there are 2 personalities that you're allowed to have as a Mormon. It's like childlike innocence or wise old apostle. Like, and so,
and not only innocence, I would say naive.
Naive,
a
naive child, you know? And so that's why you have these like 20 and 30 and 40-year-old people that are like, we're going ice blocking and we're having a root beer float party and
Root beer
bottomless.
floats are amazing.
bottomless root beer floats. And ice blocking and root beer floats are amazing. But at some point it's like, you're a grown person, like you can go do something else. Like there are other things. The world is wide open to you. It's like, no, we're going to do a service project. We're going to go ice blocking. We're going to go back to the church and what's the recreation room called? The multi-purpose room, or the right? The gym. The gym, basketball court is used for, you know, the Jello. I mean, I don't want to use all the Mormon cliches, but like the Jello and the root beer and all that kind of thing. And it creates in this thing of like, you're watching your dad. I'm watching my dad, who is like the scariest person that I've ever met, do these childlike games and act like a kid when he's around his friends, and not able to like really have an adult conversation about like
hard things,
stuff that's real. Like I could take it as a kid. I feel like our kids can take complex, hard conversations, but we teach them, like, we keep them safe from that because we want to keep that naivete. We want to keep that innocence. But then I would watch my dad as a bishop get up and speak, and he sounded like he was 83 years old. Like he would stand up there and he would do the pause, you know, the pauses.
Yeah.
Like
the dramatic
lower your
pause.
voice and do a deep dramatic pause.
I still do the pauses on the podcast.
I am here to tell you, brothers and sisters, that I know you have to kind of like let your voice shake a little bit, and you got to like get lower a little bit and like kind of look around and fight away a tear. I repeat, I know that God lives and he is our Father, and his Son, even Jesus Christ, is the Savior of the world. Yeah. And only by his atonement can we return to live with the Father again. And you're like, oh, I'm fucking feeling the chills. Yeah. But you can say that about Pinocchio. Like you can tell that same story
in the same
intonation about Pinocchio going to Pleasure Island, and people will be like, oh, I got the chills, man. Pinocchio is so fucking cool, man.
It's a good story.
Wow, Pinocchio really did a lot to teach us lessons and make us be more like him.
Yeah.
I want to be a real boy someday. You know?
Someday you will.
Someday I'll be a real boy.
But I think you were speaking to there, and it's true.
Yeah, I got a little lost on what I was going
No, it was amazing.
It was good. I think there's a part of us that gets lost in that. We're talking about growing up too fast, right? And not having that exploration.
Mm-hmm.
There's a locked child in there somewhere that didn't develop, that we took on these responsibilities, the priesthood, young women's, missions, marriage at a very young age. And so I know in the medicine space, my inner child likes to come out a lot. You know?
Hell
And
yeah.
so
I love your inner child.
you might beat and trying to do the beat and like
Yeah.
do
The beat,
Like
beat, baby.
I am Michael Jackson for your inner child. Oh, we probably shouldn't have said that joke. Like, I'm just saying I'm just trying to say that I love your inner child.
I know
Yeah.
what you mean.
I really like your
I
inner
do too. I like little Mike when he comes out. And that's fine. And that's great. And it's I'm just talking about that split. And so I think things we can do to connect to our inner child, paint, play with mud, rocks, develop that inner child. And I think let him or her come out to play is fun.
Yeah,
That's my only
the
point I
child
made.
coming out is awesome. It's just when the child is only allowed to express itself through 3 or 4 methods, and you have these like restrictions for what that child looks like, you end up with root beer floats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes out in interesting ways. Well, I was just listening to on tape Michael Pollan's book How to Change Your Mind, which we've talked about a bajillion times, but I finally listened to it. And one thing that really hit me, because you know how they say older people are stuck in their ways, but it's literally true based on the pathways in our brains that we have to predict something's going to happen and we fill in the blanks. Like our brains automatically fill in the blanks based on our past experiences. So the older you get, the more experiences you have to pull from to fill in the blanks. And he was saying that it's quite possible that children, even though they're wild and they haven't quite formed their brain yet, they're the most authentic version of a human that could possibly exist because they haven't had all of these archives to pull from to fill in the blanks. So they're living authentically by just looking at a tree and seeing the branches and the tree or the leaves and the flowers, and they're like, that's a cool tree. But when we walk by it, it's like we see one branch and we're like, tree, and we ignore it because we fill in the blank. So I like that idea of stopping filling in the blanks and really seeing the world, which I think is what psychedelics does. Like when you have mushrooms or any type of medicine that expands your consciousness, you see the world for what it is. You really see the tree, you see the leaf, you see the leaf's energy, and it's so exciting. And that's one reason that I really love mushrooms, because it allows you to remove the veil of predictive text, I guess you could say, and see it for what it is and see the beauty in it.
I like mushrooms too. Have we said that?
Yeah, I think it's the first time. Maybe we should talk about mushrooms.
There's one thing I do want to mention. I don't hope this doesn't make it about how we doing on time. We're doing pretty good.
10 minutes.
We're way good.
Because I think one of the dangers too of a dogmatic approach, and we've seen in the medicine spaces, is finding a new guru or a shaman, or even podcast hosts that you're like, they're my new gurus or shaman, projecting that your inner guru onto someone else. And I think it can be dangerous in a medicine space, especially, we have a couple episodes on the shadow side of psychedelics and the abuse that can happen in those spaces when you're in a very altered, vulnerable state of consciousness where you are open to being re-traumatized or traumatized in new ways. And so just as you're trying to control your own connection to yourself, boundaries is something that we haven't learned very well in Mormonism. And you're okay to set boundaries. You're okay to vet people. You're okay if something doesn't feel right, say no until it does. You don't have to be like, oh, I don't know, it's a part of it. But no, until it feels right, say no.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your, and it's hard because you say trust your inner voice, trust the still small voice, and that can be triggering. But I think the church did something where it's like, it connected us to our intuition. It told us to shame part of it. Because if the intuition was like, oh, I should go help my mom today. It's like, oh yeah, that's the spirit. It's like, oh, my intuition's like, no, I'd like to connect with myself and masturbate today. No, whoa, that's the devil.
Satan.
That's the Satan, right? Like, or anything, right? So it's like, no, but learning to trust your intuition is a process, and psychedelics can be so helpful with that. But trust it. If it's just not feeling right, don't until it does.
Yeah.
You got plenty of time, plenty of opportunities, and you can switch the vibe. And if someone's just like, I'm working with this shaman and it's just not, I don't feel good, find someone else. You're worth it. And so.
Amen.
Did I take us in a place we can't recover from now?
No, I'm gonna jump right on that. So unless you had something to say,
Nope.
which I would prefer hearing you talk.
No, I
Okay.
think you should go.
So the boundaries thing that you brought up, that's a thing it's not something that you just say, okay, from now on, I'm going to learn to set boundaries for myself, and turn the switch on, and I've got the boundaries, and now I've got boundaries. You know, it's like this constant thing of discovering what your boundaries are. You know, I'm telling you that during a recent psychedelic trip, I was really going down this path of, wow, I realized that I don't like being touched unless it's on my terms. Now that's a weird thing for me to say, because you guys know me. I'm a huge hugger. I give everybody a hug. We can walk out into the street and I'll give everybody a hug out there. And so then I'm sitting there thinking, oh, wow, that's on my terms, and I only like being touched on my terms. And then I had the dark side of that come to me, which is like, okay, homie, doesn't that mean that probably everybody only likes to be touched on their terms, and that I'm taking that away by going around hugging everybody? Yes, I am a 41-year-old white man just now realizing that I'm not allowed to go around and just hug everybody in the history of the world. It was a really weird, like, aha moment for me. And that's part of me setting up boundaries, because by opening myself up to being like, I want to be known as the guy who gives hugs, I'm opening myself up to, now suddenly I'm having physical contact that I'm maybe not, that maybe kind of goes beyond my boundaries a little bit. And so I'm still sitting with that and dealing with a little bit, but that boundaries thing is a tough thing to like suddenly late in life, when you've got this established identity and personality and friend group and people that you know, suddenly you have to, like, it's either weird, awkward conversations, or it's just sort of like avoidance and maybe doing some different things in that way. It's not easy. It's not easy. That's all I'm trying to say. That the boundaries thing is an easy thing to say. Learn to set your own boundaries, but it's an ongoing path or adventure or journey, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's what we're still learning. Shalise, I do want to hear from you on something. Because you've always, so Shalise came on, she was the first guest on our podcast, and we love her so much, and she was so wise that we're like, keep coming.
I was like,
so
I'm not leaving.
You're not leaving. And I'm glad you didn't leave. But you had an experience where you were spiritual. Like, so Doug and I left the church, atheists, kind of like threw everything out.
Spirituality was a swear word to us. Yeah.
But you always kind of maintain that. And I was kind of just curious how you like explore that, but also hold it loosely. I don't know. Is it hard for you, or
Yeah, that was a totally different experience for me, because I was always interested in ghosts. And so, like, spiritual, you know, I always had this understanding that there is a spirit world, and I loved hearing about it. I was the one that would tell the ghost stories in my friend groups. So I always felt connected to the other side in a very interesting way, which in turn gave me many spiritual experiences in the church. So much so where I did the whole like scripture flipping thing and would read a verse, and I'm like, oh, God is telling me to move to Oregon for my senior year of high school, which could be legit. Like, maybe God was trying to tell me, and that was my way of doing it. Now I might go to tarot cards or like a different modality, but the spirituality is the same. And so when I dropped Mormonism, I was like, let's explore the spirit world now that ghosts aren't off limits. Because, you know, we were told that ghost stories aren't really of God, and like anything that makes you feel that uncomfortable feeling is of the devil. And it's like, no, I'm just scared. It's a ghost story, you know, like it's just fun. And so I was more excited to explore the off limits stuff. And so that's when I learned more about spirit guides and reincarnation and all of those things that were so interesting to me, because I remember thinking, oh, well, if we don't just have one shot at life, why don't we have multiple lives, you know? And then I just went down that rabbit hole, because if this isn't true, then this could be true, and let's explore it. So I was always really interested in spirituality, and that word was never like a swear word to me. It was exciting. I'm like, yeah, I'm spiritual, and I still would talk to ghosts, and I'll have all these crazy experiences. And psychedelics didn't come into it until like 8 years later. So I spent a long time just on that spiritual road of mysticism, and I guess you could just call it like new age mysticism, before I jumped into psychedelics, which kind of ended up bringing me back into a feeling of an ultimate power or a god or a source energy, because I called it source energy before, but I never really felt it as much until I did psychedelics, and it's like something clicked. Oh, okay, this is kind of bringing it back into like a powerful deity without personifying it. So that was kind of my journey with it.
You just kind of tripped me out a little bit talking about, because like growing up, I was always told like, oh, ghosts, that's not a real thing. That somehow doesn't fit within the confines of our belief system or something like that. That might be different from household to household. I'm not sure. I was told that ghosts don't exist. But then when you were talking about that, I was like, wait, the Holy Ghost, the existence of a Holy Ghost has to therefore mean that there's an existence of an unholy ghost.
So
and maybe even neutral ghost. Like just doing their own thing. Ghost.
Casper.
Here, chilling.
Like Holy Ghost does his holy things, unholy ghosts do their things, and then there's just like a big old crew of just like ghosts chilling and doing their thing.
I'm just a regular
like,
ghost. Okay.
Yeah, listen, I'm not one of these ghosts that comes around and says boo and haunts you and woo woo woo. I'm just like a ghost.
Yeah.
I got no intentions. I'm just ghosting around. And so it's like, And so for me, it's like suddenly I'm having this weird thing of trying to go back to, being 13 and talking to my parents about, I'm scared of a ghost. And then being like, there's no such thing as ghosts. And me being like, oh yeah, okay, my mom and dad said it, so it's true. But now I'm sitting here going, in Mormonism, there is certainly such thing as a ghost.
Yeah.
And if you have to specify which ghost it is by saying the holy one, like it's the holy one of all the ghosts, this is the holy one.
There's just one ghost here. Oh, the ghost.
Yeah, you
I felt the ghost today. I felt the ghost.
Yeah, I felt the ghost.
The ghost.
The
one and
of
only
the
ghost.
By the way, the whisperings of the ghost sounds kind of spooky too.
And
like,
he leaves at midnight.
Yeah.
He leaves you on
Holy
your own
Ghost
at
goes to
midnight.
bed at midnight.
He's gone.
He's like, listen, I may be a ghost, but I still have to get some sleep. So it's like,
I have boundaries.
Yeah. The Holy Ghost set boundaries. It's pretty good.
It does bring me to mind one thing though, because I love this conversation because I think it ties in here as we wrap up.
Are we even doing our topic at this point?
No, I think we are.
Our topic was 8 pages long, so we can say whatever the hell we want.
Listen, because I've had psychedelic experiences where I feel like I've felt ghosts, right? Like ancestors, and the ancestral psyche. You think of like the body keeps the score and epigenetics, where our ancestral lines could be in our DNA. And so ancestral trauma is still impacting us. So if your grandpa suffered a trauma, blocked out, couldn't feel it, it's passed down through you. And and you're kind of repeating those cycles until you clear that out. And that's what I was feeling in that trip, where I was it felt like channeling a couple of ancestors of mine. And at the end, I was like, I don't know if I was channeling them, if it was all in my imagination, if it was just part of my own shit that I was projecting onto them, or if I was feeling theirs through me. And at the end of the day, it didn't make a difference.
Doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all the same.
It's all the same. I was feeling something that was very healing for me. I was purging something and feelings that I'd blocked out for so long. And it felt like their presence was there channeling through me, but that could have all been internal. It could have been a spiritual presence. It could have been whatever it was. A huge shift happened for me in doing that. And so I think that's part of it. It's like, it can be whatever. We don't have to I don't have to say like, no, that was my grandpa's and they came and they talked through me. Maybe it was my imagination, but I was telling their stories in a cool way. And I think there's something about holding that loosely and allowing for all the possibilities. Because maybe it's not one thing. Maybe it's yes, and maybe it's all of those things.
All those things can be true at once, or none of them could be true. And it could just be like, you're making shit up, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it's impacting you in a way that is having some kind of effect on you, positive or
very
negative.
somatic.
Our own, but that's true on the other side of that. When you're having these good, positive experiences from that, it doesn't matter what the actual like tangible reality is, it's having a positive impact on you. But that the other side of that is true. Like there are times when we're having these things that are having a negative impact on us, affecting our emotions, maybe having a rough day, feeling like we're no good, nobody loves us, that kind of stuff. And it's just, it doesn't come from a specific source. It doesn't come from some kind of thing. It's just, it just is. And it's like Mike said, it's the weather, let it roll through. Our screen just changed. So does that mean, Sarah, it's up?
It's question
We're
time.
good
Question
to
time?
question time?
Yeah, but you can finish your thoughts.
Every thought I have is an unfinished thought. So we can stop me in the middle of every single sentence and we're not going to get anything out of it. It's fine.
No, this was really good. And I don't know what's happening where you are, but the rain is just coming down. I got super cold, so I put on that sweater and didn't even realize it till my camera came on. I was stripping it off. No, thank you. This was such a fun presentation. So I really love the energy. I love the enthusiasm. We do have a question. Somebody was asking what your favorite tarot or oracle deck is right now. And that's not just a question for you guys. If anybody else in the group has one, put it in the chat
You know
as
what?
well.
I've got mine. Let me go grab it. I can do a
Yeah,
punch.
get it.
While Mike grabs his, do you want to do yours? Do you have a
Yeah,
favorite?
I wish, I don't know the author though. I think it's the Starseed deck, and Mike
Oh,
has
yeah.
that one too. Everything is pastel and the artwork is incredible. I think my very first deck that my mom gave me was Doreen Virtue angel cards that I've had since 2008.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like all beat up and used.
Hell yeah. Use those cards. I mean,
Yeah.
mine's
Which one, yeah?
the Wild Unknown Tarot. That's the one I've been going to lately. What?
That's the one, man. That's what I mean. I'm
Wait,
I'm new
that's
to
the
this
one?
one.
That one.
That one.
This one's like I fucking love this one, man.
Is it tarot or oracle?
It's tarot. It's tarot,
Ah.
but it almost because it has an accompanying book. It
It's
kind
kinda like
of
oracle.
feels like in between the two. So it's a good starter tarot deck. For those who aren't familiar with tarot.
Yeah, I just love the design on this. It also has, like, for me, the energy that comes out, it's like it taps into what I'm doing or what I'm feeling. And so this is the one this is my go-to lately, the Wild Unknown Tarot. That's crazy that you just went and grabbed
But
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
for tarot, I love the standard rider weight too. I think there's something almost channeled about that deck or
Oh,
that
yeah.
deck and those images where if you meditate on those, you'll see a lobster in one, you'll see things that speak to you. And then the cards you're not just looking at the book. It's like that card comes up and I have my own relationship to that card.
Mhm.
So the card's speaking through me in that way. And
Oh, I love that.
that's a good one. As far as Oracle decks, Sacred Rebels is a good one. And Journey of Love, there's a one that was pretty great too. I kind of love it.
Nice. I never seen the journey.
I think they're both by the same person. I forgot her name, but she does a good one. So whoever did Sacred Rebels has done a bunch, and those are really good.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I think I just want to point out too, if you're not familiar with tarot or oracle cards, the whole point of it is just to invoke your own intuition. So you pull a card and, like Mike said, whatever resonates with you is what is supposed to be coming through. So they're not magical. They're just really beautiful cards. So when you go and pick a deck, find one that you feel like the artwork resonates with you. And then most likely the captions or whatever you want to call it will also invoke some sort of feeling that you're trying to bring through you.
And I'd
I
argue
love that,
they
Shalice.
might be magical because we're all magical.
Yeah.
Right? This whole thing's magical.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I love that because my experience with tarot has absolutely been, oh, this is just one more platform, one more way for my brain to process and bring forward whatever it is my brain and heart needs to think about.
Mhm.
So I like that you say that. But yes, I also agree. We're all magic. There's magic in being human, right?
Yes, and all.
I have somebody asking what can they expect tonight and how do they participate?
Yeah.
And then I'd second question as a follow-up, what is Mormons on Mushrooms doing? What can they expect from you all in the next little while?
Oh, those are both good questions.
Great questions. I think that's a
Kick us
YouTube
off.
question.
Okay, let me start with tonight. So tonight we're doing our first, it's called Mama Gaia Roadshow. We're doing it here at this Vitalize Studios. I don't really know what we're doing, Doug. We're getting up with our guitars, but
We're taking back Mormon roadshows.
Yeah.
We had to sit through so many of them when we were teenagers. We're taking them back for something that's fun and cool and
so it's
maybe
just
a
going to
little
be
bit more
Adult.
adult.
yeah. So it's just gonna be a night of guitars. We have a lot of music acts coming up and some irreverent songs, some fun songs, some
Yeah.
moving songs. It's gonna be a night of, I feel like all of it, laughter, crying. I think we're gonna cry probably.
Do
Just
people
like-
need to sign up or can they just show up?
Well, because the space here is limited and we're almost sold out, I think there's an Eventbrite link that if you go to like
it's on our Mormons on Mushrooms Instagram.
If we go to Instagram and go to our
Link in
links, there's still some tickets available.
Yeah.
We could maybe squeeze in a few more. So just
Okay.
go there. It's like $11 to $33. It's your donation base, I guess, between $11 and $33. So
or just come and we'll wait for the fire department to get here.
So we'll make sure.
you're saying no.
Oh, I'm being told no.
No, that's
We
not
have
allowed.
capacity.
Well, we will go ahead when you guys are off. We'll have you drop that link right into the chat.
Oh, you know what? Matt Hollingshead just did. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, there
Matt's
it is.
coming
Thanks,
tonight.
Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. And then what about the
what else is
future?
coming up?
So I'll start and you guys can add. So, we have the solstice event, the revival, obviously that's going to be, so we're coming as a Mormons and Mushrooms themed camp. We're going to be creating the fairy kingdom there. It's going to be a cool vibe. If you want to be part of our camp, you can find all that info through our website and also the revival website. But as far as where we're going with the podcast, I don't know, you guys, the podcast is the first thing I've ever done in my life where it's just been surrendering and seeing what comes.
Yeah.
And it's been beyond my wildest imagination so far because of that. It's like we recorded an episode and we're like, we don't even know if we're going to release this thing.
Yeah.
We created the Instagram. Lisa's like, I want to tell you all about it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And we just, it's almost just like one step along the way and people come, we're meeting the coolest fucking people I've ever met in my life. It's just been magic. So it's like, I just want to keep, I love doing it. I want to keep doing it and connecting cool people and telling cool stories and building like a community of just cool people, all without dogma, I mean, it ties into what the Divine Assembly is about. Just like, be you, come explore with us. And we're going to have a fucking good time.
Yeah. And there's like a little bit of a community has sort of, I mean, community I use loosely, but like a community has kind of formed around this because we have magical people that are kind of taking the ball and running with it. You know, Shalise started that off, and then we've got people like Adrian and Peter and Seth and Andrea and Spencer and Ryan and
Krista.
Greg and Krista. I mean, it's just been this amazing thing where
Casey. Yeah.
Casey's another, Britt. It's just, they're magical people are like, hey, we need to find a way to connect with and contact other magical people that are kind of going through the same things that maybe we're going through, regardless of religious past or you know, their where they came from, their background. And it's just people who are seekers and people who want to find other seekers and have weird, fun conversations and share their art and share their music and just be and be okay with that. You don't have to be anything other than yourself. And I think that that's a pretty good vibe in a community that's just trying to bring people together.
Yeah, we have our Mighty Networks too, where that's like a more honed in space for people to get together and talk, aside from our Facebook support group. And yeah, we've been talking about the sky's the limit, like traveling road shows, or possibly retreats, even going out of the country and do like a medicine retreat. We're just kind of seeing where everything takes us because yeah, we're just taking a step at a time.
I love
Awesome.
it.
Well, we have, one more question just popped up. Will people need to take psychedelics to be able to enjoy the camp at Revival? Can sober people be included?
Sober people, I'm usually the sober one.
I am too.
I don't drink it. I do the medicine very sparingly. So yeah, come as you are and interact, and we're gonna have little activities and probably play more guitar and sing and just have a good time with each other.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump in on that too. We're opening it up for families to come. So it is not centered around the medicine necessarily. If somebody feels like they want to partake, they get to, but yeah, that's not the focus of the Revival necessarily.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from you, from the Mormons on Mushrooms team?
I do want to give one more thought that Sarah, thank you, and Steve for putting this on. You guys have done so much work with this, and
Yes.
the work that the Divine Assembly is doing, it just can't. It's just so important. And so if you're watching, I know this is a free event. go buy one of these cool t-shirts, because, and just if anything, just to support Steve and Sarah and what they're doing. It just would mean a lot, I think, because they put in so much to this, and it's just like a token of appreciation.
Yes, we're very happy to be included
nice.
and be involved.
Well, thank you. I love that our projects are bringing us into each other's sphere. There are just so many good people in this space, and I see no competition. It's all just collaboration, and because that's where the magic is. So,
well, one more thing with that, Sarah,
yeah,
just real quick, because I love how you said no competition. I think that's part of it, is when you lean into yourself, there is no competition. There's no one like you. And there's no one like, so just, if people listening were like, hey, I want to do a mushroom themed Mormon podcast, do it. We'll do a collab. We'll talk, the space is open, because you're going to do it in a unique way that's just you.
Yeah. And
that's different than what we can bring. So.
Oh, I love that a lot. Thank you for that. Great ending message. Well, thank you. And we'll see you tonight at your event. And, for the rest of the group, we have one more presentation that will start at the top of the hour. You know how this works now.
Thank
all right.
you.
Well,
thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Spencer. Love you all. Thank you.